Hello and welcome to Diecast Restos for this restoration of a rusty Lesney Matchbox 6C Euclid Dump Truck. This delightful dumper was in the range from 1963 until 1968. It looks like it has received some serious outdoor play, with mud from days gone by still lodged between the tyres, and it has nearly totally seized wheels. Thankfully, it still retains its hydro sleeve for the tipper. Here's a good condition example, and here's a 2-axle Euclid truck that has seen better days. I begin the restoration by removing the cabin, which is secured to the base by 2 rivets. The more central rivet will be too short to tap, so I make sure that the remnants are able to secure the back of the cab by pushing down with some force. The Euclid Company of Ohio was based out of the town of Euclid, Ohio, formed from the Euclid Crane and Hoist Company in the 1920s. Specialising in earth-moving equipment, the company expanded and by the 1950s was a large corporation producing thousands of off-road haulers and scrapers. With the wheels too entombed in rust to remove, I rely on trusty WD-40 to ease the wheels off the axles. I prise off the hydro sleeve prior to paint stripping as well. Initially, I intended on removing the tipper, but unfortunately it was too difficult to grind down the pin holding it in place. Thankfully though, as the model is all one colour, I can try my best to prime and paint it with the tipper and chassis connected. As such, here are all of the components. So now I can begin to drill out that foremost rivet post, and then using my M2 screw tap, I can thread the post. Each of the 3 axles were not only rusty, but also bent, so I hammer them straight and true before grinding the rust off with some sandpaper. This is a great way to reuse the axles instead of having to cut and form new sets. But now it is time to remove the leftover paint using caustic soda. The Euclid Company was taken over by General Motors in 1954, but by 1959 GM were charged by the Department of Justice under the Clayton Act for being too dominant. GM fought the suit for 8 years before they eventually sold Euclid to the White Motor Corporation. White then sold Euclid to Daimler-Benz in 1977, before Daimler sold up to the Clark Equipment Company in 1984. The following year, a joint venture with Volvo was formed. A new company called VME North America would handle the Euclid brand from 1991. Then in 1993, VME North America entered into a joint venture of its own with Hitachi, who would eventually take 100% ownership of Euclid in 2000. The Euclid name was phased out in 2004, but still appears as a range of models under the Hitachi name. I think this 3-axle model of Euclid was known as the R40, following some brief research. I couldn't find the production years for the R40, though during the Volvo era, a modern incarnation of the R40 was produced. But now though, I am treating my stripped and polished casting to some Tamiya light grey primer. On the cabin section, and in particular that grille, the primer has really helped highlight the intricacies of the casting. Those fine textured grille slats have come out looking rather good. Next, the rust-stained, dirt-filled wheels are cleaned up. These chunky moulded double-stacked tyres were borrowed from the M9 Major Pack, the Cooper-Jarrett Interstate double freighter. The front wheels were flat on one side and had moulded wheel nuts on the outer face. These were changed to a standard 12.5mm by 45 notch standard wheel later on in the production run, with 2 of these replacing the former chunky type on the rear axles. So the yellow I've used is the rich Tamiya TS47 chrome yellow to replicate the original. Though, as always, shades of the yellow can vary. 2 coats is all it takes for full coverage, even on the chassis with the tipper still connected. Even after 1 coat though, the coverage on this section is really good, and I'm pleased my decision to leave the tipper attached is vindicated. Now to attach the rear tyres, I thread on one and then hammer the end to start to create a burr, enough so that the wheels can be fitted but can't easily be removed. You'll hear the satisfying click when the wheel is pushed on later, but for now I apply the chrome trim to the grille. It also had chrome on the very front bumper. This will match Lesney's design when the M9 wheeled 6Cs left the factory. It was later, more realistically, emitted sometime after the wheel change. Here I fit the chunky rear tyres to my prepared axle. Now that's secure, I move on to the hydro sleeve fitment that, although fiddly, does eventually slide in. Then each of the axle ends are enhanced with a dab of chrome. And there's the front bumper trim. So here are my two main components. It's relatively straightforward now, simply reattaching the cab to the chassis, clicking it secure over the rivet posts. And then once that's done, my M2 screw can bring this build to a close. This then is how my patchy, rusty and dirty 6C Euclid dump truck appeared prior to restoration. A heavily play-worn example, this truck had clearly been used outdoors in the mud, which had collected particularly in the hollows of the rear wheels and caused the axles to rust. The paint had also become very flaky and initially would dissipate in my hands. As always, I've tried and this time succeeded in reusing all of the original components, including the rusted axles, and here's how it now looks. My 6C Euclid dump truck is miles fresher in the Tamiya TS47 chrome yellow. This front end has been highlighted in period correct trim on the grille and bumper, while the chrome also spread to the ends of those formerly rusty axles. The plastic wheels have been cleaned and washed in Citadel, though do still show some battle scars and gouges from its earlier life. Due to the awkward accessibility issues to the rear tipper pin, I had to leave the tipper and chassis mated during restoration. But this seems to have worked just fine, as the paint coverage has been excellent. If you've enjoyed this tipper transformation, let me know in the comments, leave a like and please do subscribe. Channel memberships are available via YouTube if you click the link below, or by Patreon with links at the end of the video. Thanks to everyone who has helped support the channel so far. That just leaves me to say thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again for the next one. Bye for now.